You're listening to Leadership Recalibrated, where we dismantle outdated leadership playbooks and explore the new way to lead. I'm Lori Lalonde, founder of Her Executive Ascent, and I created this podcast because I was tired of hearing the same recycled advice about what it takes to be a good leader. You know the scripts: be more confident, lean in, develop executive presence. But what if those scripts were written for a leadership model that no longer works? What if the future of leadership looks less like commanding authority and more like strategic influence, emotional intelligence, and authentic power? Each week, we take on the questions most leadership programs avoid, the power dynamics nobody teaches, and the decisions that actually shape your career. This is where you stop following the old rules and start designing the leadership career that fits who you are now and where you're going next. Let's recalibrate. My guest today spent 20 years as a corporate executive and comes from a long line of shamans. Amy Pons is a certified life coach, intuitive energy healer, womanist podcaster, and facilitator of Magic School. Her work is focused on bridging the gaps between strategy, soul, and radical self remembrance. She is an absolute force for good and healing, pioneering the new paradigm of existence that all humans came here to experience. Let's get into it. Hi, Amy. Welcome to Leadership Recalibrated. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Lori. Thanks so much.
Now, today I brought you on because we are seeing a lot of women moving into entrepreneurship. That is something that is really top of mind and timely as they're making that move and navigating that area. Now, you left corporate, as well as I left corporate, to build your own brands focused on women's leadership and empowerment. You have two different brands, Unlocking the Magic and Women Making Moves. So I'd love for you to share with anyone who's listening, what is the background story around what led you to creating those two separate brands, and what audiences do they serve?
So it's interesting. I actually didn't leave corporate to start these. I left corporate because I was really at a point in my life where I was no longer willing to tolerate the imbalance of energies that I was seeing in the workplace. And I use the word energy because I don't pinpoint gender. I talk a lot about, and as an energy coach, about what kind of energy we're bringing to our day-to-day life and what we're experiencing. And what I didn't know back then was that while I could keep going in corporate, and that, the first 40 years of my life was about navigating chaos and feeling less than, and that was kind of my comfort zone, and someone always being in charge and telling me what to do. I was starting to realize that I was remembering what my unique magic is, my unique brilliance, which was to be a pioneer of the balancing of the energies, not just in the workplace, but in this society. So I was I now know that I was meant to be on the forefront pioneering the new paradigm, which is what I call the new human energy, which is making room for everyone and understanding, getting back to some unique brilliance and not just the copy paste approach that we've done for thousands of years. And what I refer to that as is that the feminine energy has been cast aside for thousands of years, and we've only been operating in the imbalanced or toxic masculine, again, energy. And that means we've all been perpetrating or participating in it at some level because we've had to be in survival modes. I left corporate. I said, today's my last day, without any notice. And I wouldn't have told you that I was going to create Unlock the Magic or Women Making Moves or Magic School or any of the things. But what I did know that I wanted to feel is I wanted to feel in community with the women, the humans of the world that were creating the new existence. And at the time, again, I wouldn't have used any of this language. I would have said to you, my boss said that they were going to break me. I said, no, thank you. Today's my last day. That was really the long and short of it, after months and months of abuse. But I talk about those moments now, and I'm so grateful to have been, not for the abuse, but grateful for the pathway of kind of forcing me into my soul's mission, which is to say, again, you can keep doing this and you're dying, like inside and out. So what do you want to do? And I believe that that one last straw moment was delivered beautifully to me to allow me to say, well, I could. And then I got to, I can. And then I got to, I am. And I'll pause there before I get into the specific things I created, but that's how I left corporate.
That is such a powerful story because turns the perspective of you endured toxic behavior and abuse to empowerment. You decided today's the day, enough's enough. You decided you wanted better for you. And something beautiful came out of that. I think that's so lovely and something that we can all find inspiration out of. Corporate is punishing, especially for people who don't fit into the patriarchal norms and can follow the patriarchal structures. It is predominantly women that definitely feel the brunt, and especially Black women who really suffer in corporate. They are not treated very well. We have seen in recent news an exodus of women, specifically Black women, leaving corporate. Some of them are starting their own journey of entrepreneurship and deciding, I don't want to work within those systems anymore. I'm going to create something that works for me, my health and well-being, but while also serving community.
Yeah, I think we get to this point and hmm, I'm very in tune with spirituality and energy. There is this moment happening right now where, again, the feminine energy of the world is saying, wait a second, I'm here to create the new existence. And it's not this. Oh, by the way, this is what I am seeing and experiencing. It has less to do with, again, kind of the patriarchal norms of what success is, money, titles, all of that. It's about creating enough. I call it like enoughness or okayness to be you in your own life because I feel personally a lot of what was keeping me in for so long was like bills or lifestyle. And I'm not suggesting that it doesn't take a shift in that because it might, but I feel we reach a certain age and we're like, I don't want this. I want more of this, and I'm willing to compromise on this. Maybe that looks like not making as much money or something like that, or whatever that looks like for you. So for me, it wasn't even, I was still feeling beholden when I first left corporate. I was going to, again, I had no thoughts of creating a business. I was like, just no. I mean, I'm gonna find another job and I almost took a corporate job the following week that was bigger title, bigger money, all the things. And lovingly, my husband said, hey, did you leave for a reason? Like this really seasoned, tenured gig that I had in corporate. And I was like, "Oh, right. Okay, let me sit with this for a minute," because I was gonna go back into like a many probably even a more toxic world at that point. So I privilegedly shut down all gears and I said, "Okay, what do I wanna do?" And I was still at the do part back then. Today, I'm more of the be, like, what do I wanna be or who I wanna be. There was a time in corporate where I was the leader of the Women's Employee Resource Group, the ERG, and I was starting to coach hundreds of women. And I was actually feeling what they felt. So, like, I would feel their feelings or their energy. I'm like, "I don't know why I feel this, but, like, you don't wanna be in corporate anymore." And they're like, "Mm, yep, you're right. How do you know that?" And so I was like, "I don't know what I wanna do, but I kind of wanna create that vibe of the ERG, like, on a global stage." And so I was like, "Well, is that coaching? Okay, sure." So I got my coaching certification. That felt nice, and I created Unlock the Magic because I wanted to unlock the magic in people that's always been there, but we've not been maybe taught or allowed to foster it all because it's not quote unquote safe. So the magic is someone's unique brilliance that no one can do what you do, how you do it. That's why you're here. So that felt good through coaching, and that's unlock the magic. That's my healer side. My warrior side wanted to get into the fray a little bit and have conversations with incredible women of the world that were creating the new existence and doing it their way and causing a fuss and saying all the things out loud. That's why I created Women Making Moves. That's where my healer and warrior had a really nice stage the first 6 months out of corporate. And I was like, well, this feels really good. And then I headed into my own dark night of the soul, which is a lot of internal work. That's when I really came forth in my healer, my abilities that's always been deep in my bones. And I just remembered how to, like, why I was able to do it and how I was able to do it. And that came full force as well. But you're absolutely right. Like, we're in this time and space where 1 million women left the workplace in 2025, 600,000 of those being Black women. And when we say leave the workplace, that doesn't mean that it's voluntarily. Many of those were ousted or, forced to take a takedown. And are 1 million women going to become entrepreneurs? I don't know. I mean, they can. Not everyone wants to. They just want to make a living and be able to
Yeah,
support themselves.
that's true. That's very true. And it's in this place of privilege of I'm very fortunate and I acknowledge that I have the capacity at this stage in my life to do that. I love that your husband gave you a reality check and had you take a moment to reflect and really think about what your next move was. I also know that if this happened at any other time in my career, I would not have been able to make the same decision because I was working in fight or flight mode,
Mm.
raising 2 children, paying a mortgage, going through a divorce once, then twice. So I'm just lucky at this stage where I'm at, I have the freedom to do that. And I do acknowledge that it's not something everyone can do. And at the same time, I still want to find a way to help the women who have either a desire to continue in corporate but would like to see it work differently or have no choice but to be there. And they're really struggling on how they maintain that balance for themselves and setting those boundaries.
Yeah, because the fact is, like, that million women, they can do anything they wanna do. That's my personal belief. I know that a lot of people would hear that and be like, mm-mm." Well, that's my personal. But it's whether you want to, it's whether you can, and personally, I closed out my 401(k) to be able to start my own business and to create my own okayness, and now I don't have that, but it's like, okay, but I trust myself, and I trust that what I'm creating in this time and space is exactly what I meant to be feeling into. So it really is going to be specific, but every one of those million women have a unique zone of genius that they have to offer the world, and so I kind of think about this sometimes. It's like, okay, a million women left. And then what if those million women become like consultants in their own way, like for these companies? And so now, like, all these companies are just outsourcing freelance women, but not hiring them on full time. And like, it's going to be like, wait, why don't we just hire them in? It's just going to be this like weird full circle. There's this cycle because the imbalanced masculine is crumbling. That's why we're seeing so much atrocity. The fever pitch is breaking way to the new paradigm. It just depends on where any individual is in that moment in time.
Yeah, and I feel that there's something empowering too about being contracted to work. Like, so if somebody came to me or if a corporation came to me and said, we want to partner with you, want you to bring in your program, that's great. I still own my time
Mhm.
and my schedule, and it's on an equal playing field.
Mm.
Whereas when you are going in for that paycheck, depending on who your manager is, and it's not the case for everyone, but there are managers who treat you not as a human, but as a resource that they can extract as much from as possible. And I think that that shift in dynamic is what to me is so appealing. I could never see myself going back to corporate at this stage and giving that power away again.
Same. I mean, I always say, like, never say never, but everything would have to change. And what I feel happened this in 25 specifically was that when there were different moves and changes within the US specifically, when organizations had kind of a pass, they were told, like, you don't have to do DEI anymore. And they began getting unabashed about the fact that they don't want women in the workplace. And they
Yeah.
were finally able to say it. And it's like, okay, here we are. Now the truth is, it comes out. 'Cause it's been this way for 100 years. Now they get to say it out loud.
Yeah. At the same time, I see, I guess, like, I'm generally a pessimist, but on the optimist in me is we make up 50% of the population.
52%.
And yeah, you can drive us out, but that just gives me more fuel to focus on where my dollars go and support women first, women entrepreneurs, women businesses, lift them up, put the spotlight on. That's where my dollars are going to go as well. That's my guiding compass. If women were more strategic in where we spend our dollars, it could really hurt
I
those
mean,
companies that are
and that
costing us to,
yeah,
yeah,
I mean, that is actually what is happening. I'm an optimist, and I
yeah,
know factually that women are going to figure it out no matter what. We always have, we always will, and especially Black women. If anybody wants to understand how to create what we do want in the new existence, look to Black women. Not
yeah,
to say that they are in charge of it or they're the responsible, because that's a whole other thing about, like, and no one has actually listened to that's who we need to have been listening to the whole time. But we know that when money is put into the hands of women, it goes back towards self or community to create the new existence. So you're starting to see that more and more. as that million women transition into their new chapter. We're done playing copy paste, and that's going to be disruptive. Like I actually posted last night on LinkedIn. I said, imagine if every woman woke up tomorrow loving every part about themselves and their bodies, how many companies would go to business that rely on them not liking their bodies?
Yep.
And that's absolutely true. And I feel like, Lori, that's actually the vibe, not in a pessimistic or like negative way. That's just actually where we're heading. Like, you can't tell me anymore how I feel about myself. No, thank you.
Yes.
And that's the
Yes.
vibration of whatever these million and more women do, whether they want to create their own or go back in or whatever it is, they're going to in that new paradigm. And the folks who don't get it are the ones that are going to be filling up shop. It's not going to be these million women. It's going to be the
Yeah.
others. And that's not creating a villain. That's not looking backward. It's just it's factual. It's what we're creating.
Yeah. And the short sightedness of corporations, because we know, and we've had this discussion, and I've had this discussion with other folks as well, that the next generation does not want to work for that old style of leadership. They want transparency. They want to feel like they can have a leader that they admire and follow. They need that trust.
Millennials are done too. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm meeting more and more, and I posted about this today on LinkedIn about how many high octane women are actually just wanting to go be a, and I'm not trying to say that any of these roles are like easy or simple, but I'm saying like these high octane executive women are like, I just want to go be a barista for a while, or I want to go be like a small shopkeeper, or I want to be, just something that gives them ability to breathe and to work with their hands to get back into community. That's what I keep hearing from women.
Absolutely. And that leads into my next question because I did want to ask about that. These women who are leaving corporate, whether voluntarily or forced out or just fed the F up like I was.
Yeah, same.
um, their skills are so valuable. They are looking for something different to do. What are you seeing and how they can capitalize on all of the skills that they have and really translate that into something in their next chapter, career chapter, whatever that looks like, or if they are thinking about entrepreneurship down the road?
In my experience and what I am actively seeing right now, personally, I needed a damn minute. I
Yeah.
needed to breathe. I couldn't even have told you. Like I said, when I left, it took many months for me to even understand what I was feeling, what I wanted to do and be, how I wanted to show up for myself, my family, into the world. I didn't know, Lori, because 40 years I had been told. This is where I feel like there's going to be this trend of all these women going into some of those roles that let them breathe for a minute, that maybe
Yeah.
aren't using those direct skills of running a billion-dollar P&L right away. Maybe they're going into something that feels good to their body, their soul, that lets them think for a minute, lets them earn some cash
Yeah.
while they get to like become themselves again. Because I know how I was 4 years ago. I was so just not me. I was a shell of me. So I would find it difficult for especially these million women who likely, I'm gonna make an assumption that they experienced trauma of some sort on their way out. And so the first order of business would be healing, like fully allowing yourself to feel that, whatever you experienced, from not just that latest role, but like your whole career, perhaps, if you've always had something like that. And then maybe taking something, let's say lower stakes for a little while to allow you to earn some income, but also not something that's like taking your soul. I feel like there's gonna be this, like, moment where these women are gonna bridge in something lower stakes before they get back at it because they're still in a moment there where they're like, "Yo, I'm out.
Yeah.
I can't with this right now." And that's where I was personally, and that's what I'm seeing with many of the women right now that are still in corporate. They're like, "I am miserable. I'm just waiting for a payout or a severance so that I can get that moment of breath."
Yep.
If you do get a severance, if you don't, then you gotta figure something right back out. But hopefully you find something that is less, and I'll go back to your original question. Maybe if you are, I'm gonna make it up. Oh, let's use me. Maybe what I would have done, and actually I did do this out of corporate. Corporate marketing was my claim to fame. My very first client before I even created my business was a marketing consultant for like a small shop. And it was Awesome. So, like, could you do your trade on a lower scale or lower stake? If you can do that by any degree, offer yourself of what you enjoy doing. But I have to tell you, if it doesn't align with what you're trying to find out about yourself and it's more of the same, you're gonna get deeper into that trauma. So I guess that's what I see about not being able to immediately pivot into leveraging your skill set from corporate out on your own if you do leave. It may or may not come right away like that because you hurt, you know?
Agreed, agreed. And I had a similar experience prior to leaving my last role. So the role before the last one I was in, we were in a pandemic. We were navigating an economy where there were mass layoffs and everybody was overwhelmed, stressed, and overworked. And I remember taking short term disability leave because I had reached my breaking point. I was absolutely done. I couldn't function day to day. I struggled. And that was the first time in my career I ever used short-term disability leave. I always looked at it as something that I should never do. It felt like it was frowned upon to take it. At that point, I had no choice. Even my partner was like, something's got to give here. You can't keep going on like this. That time was really focused on healing, as you mentioned. And then that looked like therapy, that looked like medical care and medical intervention and mindfulness work in order to really get back to what does a healthy state look like. And one thing I learned during that time was I had been operating in fight or flight mode the entire time at an increased cortisol level. When I started taking SSRIs, that brought down everything and started to balance things out. But to me, I thought, well, my heart rate's dropped. Like it's really low, my resting heart rate. Like, is this bad? And I remember really being anxious about that with my nurse practitioner, and she said, "No, no, that's where your resting heart rate should be. But you have been in fight or flight mode, and that's been steady state for you, that to you that was normal and that wasn't healthy." And for me, that was an awakening of, wow, like how much longer could my body have even sustained that, considering I had been operating that my entire career. So 100% healing, and you can't do it alone. I would never have been able to get to where I was at in a healthier space without help and ongoing help. Like I have a coach, I have a therapist, I still have my medical care, and then I have my naturopathic care for even just navigating this stage of life and being in perimenopause. So much just to be able to feel good and feel balanced day in and day out.
Samesies. Like all of that support, if you can get it, please get the support. And what's interesting about short-term disability, I eyed it. Like I was looking at it for a little bit, but I was also thinking, I'm like, okay, but for me, the reason why I just said I'm out and didn't take a short term is that I'm like, okay, so I spend some time away, get really back to neutral, and then I have to go right back in to the same toxic environment. Like, was that ever going to be sustainable for me? So it's just like, okay, no.
Well, I'm going to use an unpopular opinion here and say we pay into our benefits. So why not leverage that to get healthy? Then when you go back, then make that decision to either leave or see if they package you out. Because I will tell you, a month to the day of my return, I got a package. And that was my fear of even taking short term disability in prior roles was they're just going to
Gosh.
cut me, for like after this, I'm no good to them now. I'm damaged goods. And sure enough, it played out that way where I ended up being laid off, but I had a good severance, thankfully. I took some time for myself before jumping into that next role, but I had a very clear line in the sand for me of if it gets to this point where I'm feeling this amount of tension between how I can function day to day and what's expected of me, as well as does it align with my values or not? That for me was my compass every day, clocking in, is this good for me? Are they pushing too much? Are they asking way more than I can give? And does it even align with my values? Because if it doesn't, I'm out. And so I was very, very clear with my last role when I made that decision just on a whim and on a given day. I was like, you know what? No, I'm done now. I was in that space of clarity and this healthy mindset of I know what I've been through. I'm not doing that again. And I know what fuels me and what drives me. And And I did consider going back into corporate. I was interviewing for other roles, but I'm in thinking about those interviews and getting back into that, much like you, was like, do I really want to get back into a space that likely is going to continue to be unhealthy for me? And what does healthy look like for me? And in the meantime, I was building this up on the side, my leadership accelerator for women. I just decided, well, it's time to focus on that full time, then just see where I can take that because that's what fuels my cup.
I think
Yeah.
we've been living under, again, for the past 100 years, but one could argue thousands of years, we've only been taught in the imbalanced masculine energy, which is only about the doing, the money, the success, the titles. And so imagine, so I say that because we haven't allowed ourselves to ask the question, does this make me happy? Because we've kind of been drilled in that, like, well, work isn't meant to make you happy. It's meant to pay your bills and be able to support your lifestyle. I think that's also what we're moving out of. It's like I think we're like, no, thank you. I don't accept that. I don't accept that I need to be miserable just to earn a living to take care of myself when so much around us, we have all that we kind of need to take care of ourselves. It just, like I said, what I call it is like creating your okayness or creating your enoughness of what that means for you. And I feel personally, you get to ask the question, does this bring me joy? And of course, there's not like, because we're humans and humans human, not all day, every day do you have to feel like exuberant joy, but at least once a day or more than once a day, you deserve to feel the joy. And if you're not getting that at least once a day, you get to challenge that for yourself.
That's a powerful way to look at it and a powerful perspective that I think we don't give ourselves a chance to feel that. It's like a luxury, right?
We think it's a nice to have to
Yeah.
feel good in our bodies.
Yeah.
And that's, again, that's something we were taught. That's not something that our body knows innately. What our bodies know innately is to understand what feels good, and what feels allows us to have a centralized nervous system, a rooted root chakra, whatever it is for you, a calm. I always say like peace of mind, but also peace of heart. That gets to be part of the equation, and we just weren't learned.
Absolutely. So when someone comes to you through Unlock the Magic, where are they at in that journey? Are they at just the beginning or are they in the middle?
I'll give 2 examples. When I launched Magic School last year, the entire first cohort were lawyers, women lawyers. And I said, "What's this about? What's up, ladies?" And it was like this resounding consensus that they wanted to get out of their lawyer brain and be able to feel into themselves again. So it was around intuition and being able to feel and hear their own voice again, which I think was really exquisite. So in that case, they were like, "No, I love being a lawyer, but I also want this other side of me to come back online." Or like, "I want to remember what it feels like to have my own voice," because oftentimes they're in service of others, of course. And so like they just wanted to get back to that. So I thought that was awesome. And then conversely, a lot of my one-on-one clients right now, they have come to me in a time of, I'm lost, I'm stuck, I don't want to do this anymore, I don't feel good. Their physical body is starting to manifest different symptoms, whether it be inflammation, migraines, etc. And they don't know how to access their next because of what whomever has placed them in, to say like you got to do it this way and this only one way. And so what I come in and provide is that inroad so that you can go from I couldn't possibly to maybe I could. And that looks like anything, whether it's developing your own business or it's moving into a different industry. That's been a big theme too. People just pivoting completely into a new industry that actually they feel from their gut. Like they're like, since I was in middle school, I wanted to be X. That's what they're pivoting into. But they went into their first role or set of roles because they were taught that's where the money is or the success is. And so that's what
Yeah.
they did. And they're miserable. And so now they're pivoting later in life. But they had the audacity to say, I don't know how to like reach this. So help, Amy. And that's where we get to work with energy and, of course, through coaching to be able to find and access that. And what we're really doing is providing options. So it's not just this or that, because that's what starts to feel limiting. And so that's where, like, one of the first things I do is I take someone through their non negotiables. What are the things in life you're not willing to have any wiggle room on? And it's so amazing when they're like, my peace. I was like,
Yes.
okay, if that is the very first non-negotiable, we have a lot to work with, you know?
Yeah.
It's not, and so that gets to be the navigation of the conversation and the coaching and what we do together. And then I'm so proud that by the end of working together, they have their next
Yeah.
by any degree. And it's something that has come from not a place of fear, lack, or scarcity, but from a place of remembering who they are and why they came here and what they want to feel on a daily basis. And oh, by the way, make some money at it. Like it all gets to be part of the equation. That's the magic.
I love that. And is it always in a group setting or is it one-on-one or combination of both?
Magic school is in a group setting. Coaching is one on one, healing is one on one. But I have led group healings, which is really interesting too, where the energy and power of a circle of women has really been incredible. So both,
Yeah.
all.
I love it. I love it. I know we're getting close to time, so I wanted to ask, based on everything you've seen, both in corporate and now celebrating women who are charting their own paths, what's one old leadership rule you'd love to see retired, and what would you replace it with?
We've always done it this way. That's the one I want to retire.
Okay.
You're like,
It's like,
wait,
what?
what?
Yeah.
No, that's the one I want to
Oh,
retire. That's
yes.
more of that copy paste. We only do something because it was written down eons ago, and that's the only way.
Yeah,
And I find this not just in the workplace, but like everywhere in the world right now, Lori, if we could have the audacity to challenge what we've been taught or known in the past, because no one on this plane right now has learned how to live in a world post COVID in 2026. Like, what does that even mean? So I would like to see retire. We've always done it this way and replace it with, this is how we have always done it, but is there a better way in this time and space that would help our customer, ourselves, our community, our organization? Is there a better way? Should we talk about this? So just opening the lines of communication rather than shutting it down with this is the way.
I
Oh.
love that. That's the one statement that would drive me up the wall every single place I worked at when I would ask a question about some things that were done inefficiently, and that was the response, and I'm like, "That's not an answer."
I really love your response. Like it was like a mic drop. You did not know what to do with me. If that was genuinely how, like, what I wanted to bring more of.
Yeah, I was like, "What?"
You were like, "What the hell? Why are you on my podcast?" No, no, that's not the vibe. No, no, no. Retire hard.
Um,
Retire.
love it, love it. Yeah, we need to create our new rule book that breaks down or throws away a lot of these norms that were never meant for anyone other than, cis white males to succeed in. And the only reason they could succeed in them is built on the labor of the people at home, the women at home, the families at home that were doing everything else to enable them to work in that capacity. So, yeah, it's time for something new and collaborative and flexible. And, where the human is at the center, instead of,
I would actually go
yeah.
further. The soul is at the center,
Oh,
and
I love that.
the human is actually how our souls connect with each other. Like, if we were able to have the audacity to say, "What do you need to feel safe in this moment?" Can you imagine saying or asking that to the most egregious or toxic kind of person in charge of something right now? And I've actually challenged some executives in that way, and before you know it, they are crying in front of me
Wow.
because I asked them that question. They've never been asked that. So this is not a pass, by the way, for anyone who exudes toxic behavior in the workplace or otherwise or out in the wild. I'm saying that I feel that everyone has learned and been in survival of some sort. And so they just keep perpetuating rather than being like, no, thank you, I don't want this anymore. And so they just keep going until someone says, "Er, what do you need to feel safe?" And then they're like, oh, I don't
Yeah,
know. It, like, stops them in their tracks, and it's not always that particular question, but I've actually done that before.
I like that. I like that. Everyone needs to write that question down and ask that at least once a day to
Mhm.
somebody who is having a meltdown in
Yes,
the office.
yes.
I love that. Instead
I
of just getting your backs up and going, "Oh my god, the audacity, can you believe this?" Because, yeah, the audacity, I mean, some people, that's just
Sure.
their nature, but I'd love to see the look on their face when you ask that question, because that would just be, throw them a bit off balance and be a bit of a disruptor to that behavior. I love
I
that.
toward the end of my time when I was, like, giving no fucks in corporate, I used to when executives would rage out, I would
Yeah,
say, "Can I see you in the hall for a minute?" What? Are you okay? Do you wanna go get a coffee? What's happening? Help me understand why that just occurred." And
I
I
love
was,
it.
again, getting these inklings that I was a life coach, right?
Yeah,
Because I was like, "Oh, right. Okay, this is my brilliance." And it was able to de-escalate, and I'm like, "Let's go grab some coffee." And they're like, "You know what? I just get so frustrated because no one cares as much as I do, and I'm the one that's on the line." And they give all these, like, really valid reasons, and again, I'm like, "You're valid, and it's not okay that you treat others that way. So, what do you need to feel safe?" Like that's the kind of track of conversation I have with those leaders that are perpetuating, maybe not leaders, but the people, the insecure people that are leading the charge and perpetuating the same.
love it. That's a wonderful piece of advice for everyone to take away with them and put it to practice, and then let us know how that worked for you.
Yeah, I love to hear
Like, I really wanna hear back. I wanna hear some stories, because I think there would be some juicy stories from that. All right, before we wrap up, I wanna give you a chance to let our audience know where they can find you, how they can work with you.
absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn. And that's where, because of my 20 years in corporate, that's really where my biggest audience and my interaction tends to be is LinkedIn. So I love to always have a conversation. And find me at my podcast, Women Making Moves. Lori has been a guest. It was awesome. Find me on I have some Instagram pages, both for Magic School and Unlock the Magic and Women Making Moves. My website, of course, unlockthemagic.org. Find me anywhere. Let's have a conversation because you deserve. Let's see if we are a good fit. Let's see if we vibe. And I have an amazing community of peers. If it's not me, it can be someone else. You deserve, I feel, everyone's birthright is to feel joy at least once a day. So if you don't have that, that's where we'd start. And then one last thing is our next cohort of Magic School is kicking off in mid-March. So just
Ooh.
around the corner.
I love it. Love, love, love. And yes, and for anyone listening, follow Amy on LinkedIn. You are a ray of sunshine in
Thank you.
that feed, because it is not what you would expect, but it is what you need in that day. That's how I feel every time you pop up in my feed.
Thank
So
you so much. I like to poke the bear
amazing.
as it were over there. I get a
Yeah.
little woo-woo and fun.
I love it. We need that, especially in this time.
Yeah.
So, well,
Oh,
thank you again for giving me your time today,
thank
Amy.
you
I
so much.
appreciate it so much.
It's my pleasure. Congrats, Lori.
Thank you. The leadership advice that got many women this far will not necessarily get them where they want to go next. This phase of your career is not about working harder. It's about working strategically by deciding which rules still apply and which ones you are finally ready to outgrow. If this conversation resonated, stay with us, subscribe to the podcast, and join me here every Sunday for new episodes. And if it gave you language for something you've been carrying quietly, share it with another woman in your network who needs to hear it too. Until next time, lead with intention, question everything, and change the rules for the better. I'm Lori Lalonde, and this is Leadership Recalibrated.